right. Today is the day. Day 3. The day where I begin sketching. This is putting paper to pad. Putting note down on a blank page. It is potentially the most daunting day for composing. The most daunting part of the process. I think everyone knows what this experience is like. It's the same thing when you are taking a class and you have to write a paper, whether it's an essay or a report or whatever. When you go to sit down and you have that blank page in front of you, whether you have Microsoft Word open or Google Docs or just a piece of paper, and you have all these thoughts and ideas in your head of what you want to say, but then you don't know how to say it. And you just see the cursor blinking in front of you, and it's the same thing right here. So this is where Stephen King's On Writing was incredibly helpful, because he mentioned that in this part of the process you have to remove the editor's hat and not have any judgment, just create, just start writing. And I think any composer who hasn't read that book would get a lot out of it. So this is sketching right here. I'm basically just looking back at the notes and everything that Ava and I talked about, and the ideas that I have in my head already about what this piece could be, character-wise, and what have you, and I'm jotting them down. So this first idea that I'm writing is basically a 2-note pattern. It's 2 iterations of the note G, and then a brief trill with G on a different key, and then leaping up a major 7th to F sharp and glissing downward. That's pretty cool. I think that motive worked out pretty well, and I know Ava liked it. She said it'll just require a little bit more coordination. But right here I'm writing out my second idea, and this one's based off of the first one, only instead of leaping up a major 7th to F sharp, it's descending down a minor 2nd to F sharp. And also this time the G is not trilling the Philly D key, but it's a rhythmic trill. So instead of a fast alternation between the notes, it's a rhythmic pattern changing between G and then Philly D. Descends down to F sharp, which trills the left F key, and then I added 2 more notes for melodic contour. And every other note is the Philly D key. Mm-hmm. So it's like a notated trill in a way, and then right here is a trill on the, is that right?
The left F?
Yeah. This pattern I liked quite a bit. I liked the slow rhythmic pattern of the G and then the fast trill of the F sharp. I wasn't too crazy about the last 2 notes in this pattern because it felt too much like the pentatonic sort of pattern, which I'm not really trying to go for with this. So in the next clip, we're sort of working off this same idea, and now we're giving it a little bit more shape with the dynamics, and which also I think helps create some momentum as well. The last clip of Ava playing, I actually cut short, and I'm going to show you what the rest of it sounds like in a moment, but I wanted to explain one of the things about the collaborative process that I like so much, which is just spitballing ideas. And that's essentially what we were doing at this point in our session together, is just saying like, oh, what if you did this, or what if you tried that out? So the full clip, which you will see in a second, uses a multiphonic at the end, and I think it rounds out the phrase really well. Okay, so can you play this thing again up to that B flat? Mm-hmm. And then when you hit that B flat, like decrescendo, as quiet as you can, and then start playing this multiphonic. This is the 1, 2, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 5, 6.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to mention here that Ava is playing the hell out of this. This was her first time seeing it, which is called sight reading. But right here, as you can see, I'm looking at fingerings for the oboe. And I would highly recommend all composers double check the fingerings for the notes that you're writing. Maybe you don't have to go through the process of looking at every single note, but if you're questionable about patterns of notes, or especially if it's a leap or something, I would check one of these things. Of course, when you're dealing with performers of high caliber playing, it's usually not as much of a concern. But I think it also depends on what your purpose is for this piece. Like if you want this piece to be readily playable by many performers, then this would be a good approach to take. If you're writing this piece specifically for one person, and it's less of a concern on the second, third, fourth, fifth performances by other people, then by all means write it however you want, of course with consulting the performer that you're working with. And so here's a variation off the last idea that I had Ava play, using that same multiphonic, but then this time descending down to A4. Which, for many of you who know orchestra or going to orchestra performances, this is the note that you always hear the oboist play at the beginning to tune the entire orchestra, is A440. What if you, can you do that same thing again? Mm-hmm. And then once you swell with that, and then once you come down from the swell on the decrescendo, can you then go down to A, natural, just the note? Mm-hmm. As I continue sketching ideas right here, I'm going to lead you into one final clip of Ava playing through that same phrase, and this time the multiphonic ends on a higher note, which is a note that exists in the multiphonic. After overblowing it a little bit, a higher partial comes out, and then you can isolate that note and sort of lead out of it. And I think that I also wanted to use this video to show how I expand upon musical ideas, starting with the germ of the two notes G to F sharp, and then expanding it outwards, leading up to B flat, and then creating a sort of melody out of it, G to F sharp up to B flat, and then finding a way to expand that further, and creating a little bit of, I don't want to say noise really with the multiphonic. I don't think of them as noise, but a little bit more texture, I guess. And in this next clip, we go back to the first motive using the two G's that are articulated and then trilling the G with the Philly D key. That's kind of neat. It has a melodic path that it takes. You know, it's like G, F sharp, B flat, and then the multiphonic, then up to that higher B flat.
The B flat, yeah.
Okay. So I would say I probably sketched for around an hour, maybe a little bit more, which isn't a long amount of time really, but the amount of material that I had, I wanted to try with Ava and just start getting a sense of what it was like, and so in that session that we had together, we probably went for a little bit less than an hour, and we played through a lot more than just what you've seen here, but phrase is something that I'm most interested in. And so I think I'm going to use that as the germ of the piece, which means that the rest of the piece is going to be based around that. So the next thing is for me to craft the structure of what the piece is going to be, how it's going to unfold, where certain moments are going to take place, as in like climax, larger climax, the ultimate climax, you know, that sort of thing, developmental sections. And yeah, so moving forward from here, feeling pretty good and optimistic and excited. So on to day 4. And of course, thank you so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate your support and following me on this journey of this composition challenge I'm giving myself. But now I'm gonna go compose this piece. Should be fun.